Hi, I'm Lisa Hubbard, and you're watching the Heroes Economy Show, the place where change makers and socially conscious entrepreneurs come to connect, make an impact, and get even more inspired to make a difference. Thanks for joining us. Have you ever wondered what it takes to build a truly sustainable social enterprise? Well, today we're going to be sharing with you an exciting new business model, one that takes social entrepreneurship to a whole new level. My guest today is Michael Perron. He's the founder of Impact Makers, a company that's truly committed to better business and its community. Michael has pioneered an entirely new business model that we're going to be sharing with you today. And his company is called Impact Makers again. It's a for-profit organization. Interestingly, it has no shareholders. It's governed by a volunteer board of directors, and it contributes all of its equity and profits to its community and charitable partners. Impact Makers has been a true success story. Last year, they made the Inc. 500 list, and this year, the Inc. 5000. As part of the B Corp certification, Impact Makers was also acknowledged as a Best for the World corporation, which was covered across U.S. national press, including Forbes, Inc., and Fast Company magazine. I met Michael at the Social Venture Network Conference in Baltimore. We had an incredible conversation about his business, but about a new way of doing business, and I had to share his story with you. So Michael, without further ado, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. So tell us a little bit more about your story. I find your story so fascinating, and I know our community is going to love hearing about how you actually built this business to what it is.
Well, thanks so much. So I started Impact Makers about 7 years ago based on an idea I had many years before that. I was a IT and management consulting with Andersen Consulting. Grew up in a family, middle-class family. My parents had a small gift shop where giving back was important, and I was good at what I did. I went to top university. I went to get an MBA at Kellogg School of Management, but was good at what I did doing management consulting, and realized that although I was good at it, the company I was working for, which is a wonderful company, it's now Accenture, Andersen Consulting, a wonderful company, but it didn't really resonate with my personal values, and was trying to figure out a way to live my values, if you will, through work.
Yes.
As all kind of most social entrepreneurs will have that same sentiment. So had this idea, and I had a lucky opportunity. I was started in Washington, D.C. with Andersen Consulting, and my first project was in Lausanne, Switzerland, and then I transferred an office between Nice and Cannes on the French Riviera. I was 22 years old, got sent on projects all over Europe, Middle East, India, Africa, and got flybacks back to the French Riviera, hanging out with people who own yachts, and it was a definitely surreal experience for someone who had a small gift shop. His parents had a small gift shop and came from pretty middle class background, and but realized, looking around at people, that especially my partners in Andersen Consulting, it wasn't who I wanted to be, yes. And that wasn't going to be a future for me. Yeah. They were wealthy, but really had no lives, and were working with companies that they didn't particularly like, but it was all about the cash, and that wasn't what I wanted either. And at the same time, started getting really interested in this idea of social entrepreneurship, how to use the power of business to solve social and environmental issues. And was interested, looked at, at the time, Newman's Own, Paul Newman,
yes.
On the Face of Salad Dressing. That was a model where he owned the company but gave away his profits. And even though he owned the company, he gave away his profits. And said, what if you could take a company like that and turn it into, or to take a company like Accenture, like Andersen Consulting, and turn that into a social enterprise like Newman's Own.
Yes.
Empower professionals. So that's where the idea started and germinated. And fast forward to I was in my MBA. I took that idea when I was doing my MBA. Had a chance to write a paper, of my choosing, and chose to write about this vision about at the time I called it a nonprofit or competitive social venture.
Yes.
And kind of laid out the vision for this concept. And then fast forward to 7 years ago, I had the chance to take a job with a company in D.C. that did USAID government contracting.
Yes.
And personally, it didn't work out as a job, but I turned it into a contract. And rather than just doing it as an independent consultant contract, in the normal way, I decided to turn it into to create impact makers, and I thought it would be me and a laptop, $50 in the bank account, and one contract, and me living my values.
Yes.
Me living
Yeah.
my values. And so I created this company that I had written about. So that's kind of my story and how I got to starting Impact Makers.
That's amazing. And it's so refreshing to find another person that's had a similar experience where you reach a crossroads. You got to the height of your career, you're in the corporate world, you're doing your thing, and you realize, wait a minute, this isn't working with my value system, and I really do want to do things differently, and we have this experience from when we're younger, and we realize, wow, that actually shaped me, and I can relate 100% to your story. It's almost been identical for myself, and I think it's inspiring because it really does motivate us to get out there and do something different, to actually do something, be brave, and step out of the norm. But the thing I find that's so brilliant about what you're doing is that you've taken it on to build an entity that really operates with the heart of a not-for-profit, but the mindset of a for-profit company. And I think that's one of the reasons it's been so successful. And so I'd love for you to really now kind of talk a little bit more about the business and really how you feel that what you've created is part of the solution and how it's kind of paving the way for a new way of doing business that, that really is sustainable. So tell us more about, being part of the solution.
Sure. So when you first look at Impact Makers from the work we do every day, it's not unlike any of our competitors, and we're in a few cases we're competing with Deloitte and Accenture at a couple of our clients in a niche market where we operate. We're not competing them nationally on all their work, but we're a IT management consulting company, doing process improvement work, project management oversight, governance and risk assessment work, and strategic projects for the CIO. Our clients are 50% right now, 50% state government in Virginia, and then the rest commercial, being about 30% healthcare, both on the payer side, insurers, and also providers, health systems, and then the rest other commercial clients. So that's the work we do, and I'm happy to talk ad nauseum about that, but that's not I think what this conversation is about is really about our unique model, and so. From the outside, we do the same work as any other consulting firm. What's really different is how we've structured it. So Impact Makers, we're a for-profit company, as you stated, a for-profit company, but we have no shareholders, governed by a volunteer board of directors, actually books open to the public, and all of our profits go to local charitable organizations in the community. Not only that, since there's no shareholders, it's actually, in quotes, owned by the community. The board is responsible for ensuring community's interest, made up of volunteer board members. So the company has no shareholders, which means if we're sold tomorrow, all the proceeds would go into a foundation, which would make in perpetuity community impact. So we can say we've donated from the beginning and are building this equity component as well. So what we essentially are doing is building equity for the community, and annually we're dividending the community, if you will, with our annual payments to community charitable partners.
That's amazing.
But so the board is the model is critical to talk about the board. The board is responsible for ensuring that we're so you mentioned it, we're just like another company and we're profit driven. So ensuring that we're maximizing profit and not manipulating profit. If we say we give all of our profits away, we have to be profit driven, and the board holds me as CEO accountable to maximize profit. I could be fired, even though I'm the founder. I could be fired from my role if I'm not doing that, and should be. And also not manipulating profit. So I can't bonus everything out or take everyone to Disneyland and say, oh, no profits this year. The board approves major capital expenditures, votes on executive compensation structure, approves an annual budget, etc. So that's one thing. The board also chooses our charitable partners. They have to be secular, apolitical, 501c3, local, and helping people help themselves. The local right now is Richmond, but it's local scalable in that if we are doing we have a book of business right now in New England. If we get a big enough book of business there, we will choose a local partner to decide that a local partner, and we'll have a local board of advisors that decides that partner and decides how to keep the profits locally to the area where the work is being done. So we have a kind of a circle of local living economy, if you will, of people doing the work, people benefiting, the clients benefiting from the work, and the same community benefiting from the work that we're doing and the impact we're making on behalf of the client giving us work. That makes sense.
That is brilliant. So, absolutely brilliant. And how did the model, did it start to really take shape? I mean, you obviously set the plan in motion, and then it all started to come together, and then you realized that this was a truly sustainable way of doing it because it was intimately involving the community.
So, we've certainly made, we started out and we've made tweaks and additions along the way. So, for example, after we finish a project with one of our clients, our charitable partners, we actually, by the way, we contractually obligate ourselves to payments to our charitable partners. It's actually a contract. Okay. So they are partners and we make payments to them contractually. They actually send letters to our to our clients after we finish a project saying, thanks for doing work with Impact Makers. Because of the work you've done with Impact Makers, here's what we've been able to do in the community, which kind of closes the loop between us and our clients. So that's one thing we've added. We've continually added innovations as we've gone. But to really, the models, it's confusing and it takes a few times often for people to hear it. It's fairly simple, but there's a lot of nuances.
Yes.
And another way to describe it, I mentioned Newman's Own before. Before Paul Newman passed away, he gave Newman's Own, the company, to his foundation. Right, so now Newman's Own is essentially the same model as ours. They are a for-profit company, but they're fully owned by a foundation, so no one owns them, and they give all their profits away. So the equity is owned by the community, their profits are given away. They gave $33 million a year last year away. So we're the same model again in the professional services space, not consumer packaged goods. So it's an interesting model. Why did I find it? Why was it founded? Because a lot of people say, well, why don't you just start a company, make $1 million, make $10 million, make $100 million, and like the traditional route, and give money away like Warren Buffett and Bill Gates, right? And the answer is that doesn't get me up out of bed every day to just go make money to figure out maybe I'll give some money away, and come to find out it's very empowering.
Yes.
It was empowering for me in order for me to get up and go to work every day.
Yes.
And tell my kids the reason I'm leaving you. We homeschool. So the reason I'm leaving you from staying at home and helping you learn is to go to work. This is why I'm doing it. It's to I can feel like I'm making a difference every day through the work I do. Right. So the first reason we were founded, and that's actually come to find out, I started as me and a laptop and $50 in the bank account. I'll keep talking about that because it's very true. I thought it would be me living my values as an independent consultant. And it's grown totally organically. We're about 60 people now, and we were between 10 and 11 million revenue this year.
Incredible.
We've given away close to $600,000 in the last 7 years since we've been founded. And the company is probably worth, if we're sold today, somewhere in the 12 to 15 million. That is the bigger gift, if you think about it. If it's sold today, 15 million would go to the community, essentially, in a foundation that would make an in perpetuity impact.
That is so inspiring. So inspiring. It's the ultimate scenario. It really is. And it goes to show, I'd love for you to talk a little bit about how your customers have responded to this, because in so many ways, I would assume that in their mind, they feel like they're making a difference too, again. So that's why it's proven, customers want to do the right thing. It's just like we want to buy consumer products that are good for the planet or for people. It's the same in your world.
So I think brands like Newman's Own and Ben & Jerry's and all of those, there's a conscientious consumer that is buying based on those decisions, based on sustainability choices. Corporations, which is why we're one of the founding B Corps, corporations by law have a fiduciary responsibility to maximize profit unless they're a B Corp, and they must make decisions to maximize profit. So we have to show how we add value to the bottom line because of our model, which I think we do, and I talk about that. But they aren't going to choose us because of our sustainability model unless they can link it back to their bottom line. With that said, so early on, I think our model was a hindrance to getting work because it was perceived in the business world and professional services world, it was perceived as, well, we're a bunch of nonprofit wahoos trying to pretend like we're a business, which is anything. Wow. I mean, we're hiring MBAs from top schools and years of work experience at top companies like Accenture who are working with us. But That was the perception that we had to get past. But I think what we found is we actually sell on our capabilities and price.
Yes.
Because the bottom line, that's why we get hired. Despite that, it has become a great entry point into a company. I mean, the model is a great is a way to get C-level access. CEOs, CIOs care about their community impact. The model is interesting, and it gets us into the door in the first place for a conversation with the C-suite. It's also a differentiating factor on a competitive bid. Sometimes a deciding differentiating factor on a competitive bid. Not always, at least subjectively, if not objectively, because people like the model. And the other thing that we found is we've gotten volunteer salespeople who have kind of at companies reached out to us and said, we know you do good work, but I really love your model. I'd love to see you do work at my company, and I'm going to help you put together a proposal for my boss, which is pretty cool.
That's fantastic.
Right? So, but people aren't giving us work because of the model.
Okay.
The one area that I wouldn't mind seeing us be a little more aggressive is saying, give us a chance to bid in the first place because of the model. Just put us on your vendor list. I think we've gotten to a point now where we can do that. And some of our clients have the C-level folks that we've gotten to know have said, you've done good work now. Your model is amazing. Why wouldn't we use you? So I think it's starting to become important to our clients once we prove that we deliver better or deliver well or deliver better than our competitors. And I think the reasons for our success, to be honest, I mean, I started talking about why we were founded, but I think the reason for our success, if we want to take over the world one day, buy GE and turn it into a sustainable business. But 10 to 11 million is pretty good in 7 years. But amazing. I would like, the reason for our success. I gave a speech a week ago and said this. We've succeeded not despite the model, but because of it. And the reasons were four. The first is employees. And I talked about earlier, I started it for me, but I think that's one of the reasons we founded it. Employees that we hire, they're empowered. They can use their skills, and people who come to work for us can use their skills and experience and training, not just to deliver value for the client and get paid market salary or above market salary, but they can also double leverage that to make community impact at the same time, right? So it's a group of middle-class professionals doing the same work they've always done, but structuring it differently and collectively making the same impact in the community as some of the large foundations in town. That's totally disruptive. I mean, that's kind of a game changer.
It really is.
So I could go out and maximize my net worth and give money away, but to have a company focused on that as the culture is pretty interesting and amazing. And to try to build a company like that is pretty interesting and amazing. So I think that's one of the reasons is we've attracted really good people because the model really does speak to people. They can make the same and also have this community impact.
Yes.
But on the client side, we've created economic impact for our clients. Number one, because of what I just talked about, employees wanting to come work for us, we have really high retention rates, so really low turnover rates. So the second thing of why our model has allowed us to be successful, and we've succeeded because of the model, is our clients. We have added economic value to our clients. So because of the fact that we have low turnover, and because of what I talked about, employees want to come work with us, we have low turnover. And because of low turnover, our staff, compared to our competitors, our staff stay on long engagements longer than our competitors, which is a huge value add on large projects where you have minimized the effect of turnover on client to the client on consultants out on these large engagements.
Absolutely.
Right? We have low turnover. Second, all else equal, I think everyone would agree with this, all else equal, a mission-aligned team will outperform one that isn't.
Absolutely.
And staff has this mission behind what they're doing. They know that there's a little mini foundation being created every day off the work they're doing.
Yes.
That is meaningful. And I think collectively our teams outperform other teams, all else equal.
I can attest to that as well. When we built a technology startup and we brought it to 7 figures in 2 years, and I couldn't understand why we had success so quickly. I mean, all other reasons, it would have taken us a lot longer. I realized because we had a mission, we had a social mission behind what we were doing, it made us successful. It absolutely proves itself. I mean, that's right. It's a combined. It's people operating completely in alignment with their values and sharing the same vision of the future.
Right. So we've had the same we've had the same dynamic, which has been
Yes.
wonderful. And then the third reason the third client value add is that we're able to, essentially, our clients, by hiring us, are able to double leverage the already budgeted consulting dollars, not just to get the consulting services they budgeted for, but also to make community impact, right? So the value, we essentially, impact makers can create goodwill, economic value of goodwill for our clients indirectly because of the work they've given us. And
Yes.
it's an additional economic value that they get beyond the value of the work we're delivering. They also get that. And so our clients, procurement people and corporate social responsibility people, are starting to see that they're able to double leverage their value. And the one, this is a really disruptive point of our model. So if you let me take a minute to explain that a little bit more.
Yes,
absolutely. In an example, I think that's grossly overstated, but it puts the point. It actually puts the point across more elegantly than I've already said. Is Freddie Mac was one of my clients personally before I started Impact Makers in the 90s.
Yeah.
Before they had all the issues with loans, right? In the 90s, they had roughly $1 billion profit,
Okay.
and they put 10% of that every year, $100 million. And put it into a foundation and gave it away.
Okay.
Well, that's a $100 million hit to shareholders, right? But for community impact. In those same years, they had an $800 million IT consulting and IT staffing budget that they spent on external vendors. Mm-hmm. Imagine companies like Impact Makers being competitive and winning that portfolio of $800 million of projects, and they were able to maintain a 15% profit margin. They would put $120 million into the community at no additional cost to Freddie Mac, more than doubling Freddie Mac's community impact at no additional cost to Freddie Mac. Now that takes it to an extreme, right? But it would go from $100 million to $220 million community impact in our example. And again, we're not going to win the $800 million portfolio, but that's the potential for this model.
Yes.
Double leveraging budgeted expense dollars to make community impact. It is pretty disruptive. And our clients are starting to understand that a little bit more, and it is economic value we're able to leverage to help our clients, which helps us get more work, which helps us in turn help the community more. So that's, in a nutshell, is our model.
I absolutely love it, and it really, again, it's. I always talk about the essence of the heroes economy. The essence is that when you place doing good at the core of what it is that you do, it allows you to build an organization, an enterprise that is truly serving the needs of everyone, where everyone wins. There's no win, there's no lose. It's just everybody wins all around, and it just proves itself. And the only way we can move forward is if we welcome disruption, because for a lot of us, we start to look at the world and the big picture of things and recognize a lot of the current systems that we operate within are broken. So, you know, the only way to sort of move forward is to try and disrupt them and pioneer a new way of doing it. So I'm tremendously excited by what you're doing, and the ideal scenario would be that everyone consider this model. I mean, you've already had it case studied through some really reputable organizations. I think it's just important for people to look at new ways that they can operate and be courageous enough to say, you know what, that model doesn't work, and here's one that does, or here's one that has the potential to work, and have the courage to be able to step out and prove it out, which is exactly what you've done. So I can't thank you enough for sharing this model with us, Michael. And I guess the final point, you've shared a lot with us today, but I'd love for you to put yourself in the shoes of, the wise mentor, the wise advisor. Even if it was your kids that said, hey, Dad, I want to start a social business, what would be the single piece of advice that you would give them to get going? Like, what is the most important thing you think a social entrepreneur needs to keep in mind?
Well, I think first and foremost, follow your passion.
Yes.
That's what you have to do. So I think that's largely, it's not easy to start a business generally. It's not easy to grow a business generally. But if you follow your passion, you're doing what you're kind of meant to do, I think, and that's success in and of itself.
Yes.
I put a pretty low bar for success when I started. Is live my values, do something I believe in, And if I make little ripples and we put 5,000 a year into the community, that's 5,000 more than I could have done myself as a company. And it's slowly grown, but it wouldn't have grown unless I did something that I was passionate about, because it would have been more drudgery and going to work every day, right? So doing, first and foremost, following your passion. I started the company with and I think the second part would be, be a little bold and take risks, because no one's ever been on their deathbed and said, I really wish I went to work more for that big corporate structure that I worked at all my life. People say, I wish I did X, Y, and Z. And that really means I wish I took more risks. I wish I tried things I thought about, was too afraid to. Right? So take risks, but if you take risks that are following your passion, I think it's less risky. So I left my a job and started Impact Makers with a contract, but I did it with $50 in the bank account, a laptop, and one contract, not knowing what will happen at the end of the 6-month contract, with 2 children and 1 on the way, and being the sole provider for my family, and just trusting I'll figure it out.
Amazing.
And if I have to get another job or have to find another contract or take a lower rate for a while or something to pay my own way, so be it. But at least I'm doing something I really believe in. And I took a leap. And so I think taking calculated risks is makes you feel alive, and it adds to your passion, I think.
It really does.
I wish I had a little bit more advice, but those are the 2 things I could say.
That is brilliant advice, and it allows us to, it's about being courageous. And what you find, I mean, I've had the same experience, that sometimes in life we have to experiment and see what works for us and what we really stand for. And once you stand in that place where you are clear, these are my values, and I have to live according to what I believe, and I have to make a contribution. That is almost the impetus for deciding, I need to be brave here. I need to do something that is going to really challenge me, take me out of my comfort zone completely, throw me in the deep end, and let's just see what happens, and have faith in the process. So,
but what you said was critical. The second statement you said, be brave. The first one was courageous.
Yeah.
And I would argue that any value. I mean, this is Aristotle ethics, right, from Greek philosophy. You take any value, too much of it. So I'm saying take calculated risks.
Yes.
Not be so too much bravery is brash, right? And the knight charging at the dragon and he breathes fire and he's dead. It doesn't really solve much, right? And not enough is cowardice. The right amount of courage is bravery. So don't be all out courageous. Be brave, but not overly. Take calculated risks.
Absolutely, I agree with you 100%. And it's about having a plan and just saying, okay, this is how I'm going to move forward. And I totally commend you for it. You are a shining example for all of us, and I just I'd love for you to continue being part of our community, Michael. And where can people find out more information about your company? I mean, our intention is to spread the message about your model, but also about the business. So tell us where we can find more information.
Well, certainly our website, www.impactmakers.com.
Great.
And we're also one of the founding B corporations, which we didn't get a chance to talk about much, but I'm very proud of. We're one of the founding B corporations. We're the only B corporation with no shareholders, which makes us fairly unique. But we're one of the founding B corps, and there's over 870 B corps now internationally. Probably by end of year, closer to 1,000.
Incredible.
So it's an exciting. That's something I would encourage people to learn about too, that we didn't get a chance to talk much about. But it's fun. That's a interesting and dynamic community in and of itself.
I absolutely agree with you. So thank you once again. We'd love for you to continue the conversation. We'll have you on our show again. If there's anything we can do for you, let us know. And we encourage everyone that's been part of the show today to join in on the conversation. If you have any questions for myself or Michael, please feel free to submit them to us. And we look forward to sharing more wisdom and insight as we move forward. So, Michael, thank you again for being part of this.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.